Welcome to the Congo Report. I am back with another episode. This week we are going to go ahead and get back to the basics. I have a special person here, or not here, but for the Les Africains. This is where we give a person in the community a special shout out for all the good work that they are doing in the community. And this week we are giving it to Maître Jim. Actually, we're giving it to two people, Maître Jim and Daju. And this is because they've become ambassadors to Congo for entertainment and music. They were bestowed that, and this is a good look because I think that they're the two biggest artists coming out of France. And definitely the two biggest artists I can think of out of the Francophone diaspora right now. So this is a good move for them. I think that it's going to, hopefully they don't get too involved with the politics of it, but I smiled when I saw that these two, and these two young boys are giving back to Congo by becoming ambassadors and having a position that is in high regard in terms of entertainment and music and the performing arts. So shout out to them. Okay. Next is hot tops from around the globe. Okay. In breaking news, we found out that Rebel singer, or I don't know, I honestly, someone's got to tell me if she's a rapper or a singer. I'm not sure. The musician Rebel, who is Inosbi's girlfriend, is pregnant, and she's showing a pretty much. I don't know how far along she is. I don't know how long she's been pregnant, but she's a very skinny girl. But she has a big old belly now. I want to know if you guys think it's gonna be a boy or a girl, though. Judging by it, it's a nice belly. It's a nice pregnant belly, so I think it's gonna be a girl. Usually, when people carry girls, it's usually not too. I don't know. Girls usually carry nicely on a woman's body. Let's see. I did I went on the app Clubhouse the other day, and I had a really inviting conversation with a host of a special group of Black people and people from all over the world, and from the diaspora and from the continent. And the clubhouse was hosted by a young man named Shaka Bars, and he does a lot of work in the Congo. I should have given him he gets a special mention. I'll give it to him next week. Remind me, guys, that I need to give him this Africains shout out for next week, for all the work that he's been doing in Congo, especially in the crisis that happened last year, when the city of Goma uh, had their crisis, had the volcano erupt, and people were completely destitute. They lost their homes, and the government there didn't do a really good job of being able to rehabilitate these individuals. And Shaka had an initiative to give families and build them, home, give them basically new homes so that they can have shelter. Because the refugee camps of where they were relocated to, the Congolese government needs to be embarrassed of what they were letting them live under. That it is no place not only for adults to live, but there's no place for children to live. The government needs to care about the people as if they are their own children. If they wouldn't want their children living in those conditions, they shouldn't want other people to live in those conditions. It's just as simple as plain as that. That's my rant. But I was talking about that because um later on we're going to be having a special guest who is going to be talking about a book that he's written, and he himself has traveled to the city of Goma. And the city of Goma, if you ever been there or at least seen pictures of Goma, it is a beautiful place, guys. It is one of the most beautiful cities in Congo, as I think. And uh, and I think that people, they just need to they just need to care. I just feel like politicians in general, they all have a sickness, right? They just need to care. It's not fair. This is, it's not right. It makes me mad. And especially now, here in the United States, we're seeing these tensions rising between um, um, Russia and Russia and Ukraine, and and China and things like this. It just makes you wonder, are they really having our best interest at heart, or are they in this to feed their ego? You guys let me know. Let's see what else. Oh, in other news, there is an upcoming film. I just remembered there is a film that is coming that stars Daju, right? And what is the name of that film? Good Lord, my brain is gone. What is the name of this film? It's called Ima. And I'll read it to you guys in French. You guys, my listeners, they know what I'm talking about. Okay. Congo Films official, actually, they just released it, and I think it probably looks like a good film. And the director is Muyundo Mpongo. I think he's done some other work here, and yeah, I think he's going to be an upcoming um, filmmaker that we all need to look out for. This Muindo Mpongo, and but the film is going to be called Ima, and it stars Daju and Karija Torre. That sounds like a Senegalese name or something. Nevertheless, we need to be on the lookout for that and support Congolese film and Congolese creative content. We don't do it enough. Okay. Oh, and relationship news. It looks like Serge Ibaka is it looks like he is dating Congolese supermodel Cindy Bruna, which I think they look like a lovely pair. They both speak French. I don't know if I think her mom might be Eastern Congolese, so she might speak Swahili. I don't remember. Um, and I think she's half Italian as well. Um, but really successful supermodel. Yeah. And some sports news. I didn't get to talk about it last week. So Senegal won the African Cup of Nations, and uh, they this is their first time, and they beat 7-time African Cup of Nation winners Egypt in a shootout with penalty kicks. My God. That means they fought hard to the end, because on paper, I mean, Egypt was supposed to annihilate them. I don't know. I don't know what went wrong, but yeah. But congratulations um, to Senegal. I know I'm a little bit late on that news, but I didn't get to talk about it the last few weeks. So I did want to give a shout out to Senegal, because they did a good job. They didn't play bad at all. Another news: there is a trailer for a new Netflix show. This, guys, this looks like a train wreck. Okay. Um, let me find the video for this trailer. One second. Mm, mm, mm. No, here it is. I'll give you guys a listen to this train wreck. It's called Young, Famous, and Africans. It's gonna be on Netflix, y'all. He's like, I want to jump your bones now. I saw you grinding with my ex. So that's why you hating me. Everybody was like, what? You cheated and then you have a kid? The only thing he did wrong, he got caught. Stop. How did your wig not come off? African queen. Okay. Ugh. That's my perspective. Listen, I love supporting Africans just as much as the next person, but really, Netflix, Mungu wangu, why, nini? Huh? Nini? I might watch an episode or two. I might watch an episode or two just to see what the train wreck is all about. You know, like when you see a car crash happen and you drive slow because you can't look away. That's basically what I think I'll do, maybe for one or two episodes, just to see. I think it's supposed to come out March. Yeah, March 18th is when it's supposed to debut. Lord. But overall, I think that there's so many wonderful things that we could do as a reality show for Africa, that this is not it. But I mean, as someone who likes escapism style television, will probably buy into something like this. This is not for me, but I'll watch it just to support just one or two, just to make sure just to support some kind of African, and then after that, I'll go back to reality. My Lord, what is going on? Anyway, yeah. I don't. I hate to end it on that note. Oh my God. Mm-mm, mm-mm, no. Oh, question of the day. Would you guys eat vegan style Congolese food or any kind of vegan style African food? If it was organic and not like commercialized veganism, like no vegan cheese, no vegan mayo, none of that stuff, just vegan, organic, fresh stuff. Like they give an alternative, an organic alternative to meat. Like instead of using, I don't know, beef, they use jackfruit and all that stuff. Would you guys eat a vegan meal, a veganized Congolese meal? Because there's an impression that Congolese food or African food in general is not healthy. And I was just watching, there's a African vegan cook who is giving alternatives um to non-vegetarian or non-vegan meals, and the food that she's using is not only it's organic but naturally sourced and like the good kind of vegan foods that you want to cleanse the body out and have a good diet. But it actually looks really appetizing, guys, and I just wanted to know, would you guys be open to at least having one vegan meal? Because I would eat some of the stuff that she's serving. Anywho, that is all from Hot Tops from around the globe. All right. That was all that we had from that section. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we have a special guest who's going to talk about his novel that he wrote. I have a guest here in the Leopard's Lair. He is an award-winning author and a screenwriter. His name is Joey O'Connor. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure being with you, Mayumba.
Oh, no problem. The pleasure's all mine. So yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started here, and I just wanted, at least from my perspective, what made you have, or discover this interest that you had in the Democratic Republic of Congo? What sparked that interest in you?
That's a great question. Sometimes I've heard it said before, sometimes we go in search of stories, and other times stories come and find us. And so for me, what is true is the latter. It was about 15 years ago when my brother-in-law, Ken Straw, he came to me, and he had recently married my wife's sister, and we were having lunch, and he said, "Hey, have you ever written a screenplay?" And I said, I wrote a couple bad screenplays and went back to book writing. So he said, well, I've got this story that I want you to read. And he handed me about 100-page, kind of a slimline academic type journal book. And over the next week, I read it. And it was literally one of the most fascinating stories of a person's life I'd ever read. And I came back to him a week later. It happened to be Easter Sunday. And I said, we have got to do something with this story. And the story revolves around a man who was born in 1865, the year the Civil War ended, African-American man named William Shepard, who went to the Congo in 1890 as one of the first Presbyterian missionaries to go to the Congo at a time when King Leopold of Belgium had stolen the Congo from the Congolese people. So that was how I got started in, let's call my Congo story, because over the years, I developed deep and dear friendships with friends that live and work in the Eastern Congo in Goma. Their names are Camille and Esther Natoto. I had a chance to travel to the Congo a few years ago. And so it's really been this remarkable journey of learning and research, reading many, many books, meeting Congolese people. I live in Southern California, making some connections with a Congolese church in Los Angeles. So it's really a story that I fell into, and it's a part of my life journey now. But more importantly, as I've met some very dear Congolese people, I've been invited into their lives. So it's just been a remarkable journey. So even being with you today, this is part of our story.
Yes, of course. And, I wanted to know, because it kind of bleeds into my next question. You've traveled to Congo, and I always like to get people who are not Congolese and ask them, what was your initial impression of, going to a country like the Congo, because it is a very unique experience, I must say.
It is. And as probably you've spoken with other of your guests, for most people coming from the United States to enter Eastern Congo, you fly into Kigali in Rwanda, and then you drive 4 hours to the border to Gisenyi, and you cross the border into Goma.
Oh, wow.
So the contrast between the work that's been done in Rwanda, and people, as you know, are familiar with the genocide that happened back in 94. But what most people don't know, that genocide pushed west into the Congo, as
Right.
1 million people fled across the border. So, plus the Mount Nyiragongo, the volcanoes there that have created a lot of devastation just to the infrastructure there. I would say my initial experience, it's a land of deep contrast. There is, I have never met more motivated young people in my life, with smiles on their face, and the way they present themselves in their dress and their care and their friendliness. I was practicing my very poor French, and they were so gracious to me. So there's the richness of the personalities and the warmth of the people there who are sincere and really wanted to especially with the young people that I've met through Camille and Esther, the desire for the country to have that strong leadership. At the same time, as many of your listeners know, there is that contrast of just stark poverty and lack of infrastructure, just as basic of roads. And so I think that's the best way to characterize my experience, is the warmth of the people and the love of the people, and the sincere desire for the Congo to be a prosperous, thriving place. But at the same time, especially in Eastern Congo, where there's so much conflict over the mineral resources there, there's war, there's chaos, there's tremendous devastation. So it's as we were talking before we got started, there's a lot of good stories coming out of the Congo, especially in people's lives, and it's not all bad news. And
No.
but the modern media, and this is why it's so great you're doing your show, is the modern media has completely overlooked the Congo as a country.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so funny you say it's a country of great contrast. That there's this saying we say about Congo. It's in French, but it translates to being blessed and cursed at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have all of these natural resources, the country was blessed with just naturally with so much stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
because everybody is in modern times is so greedy, that's what the thing that blessed us is the thing that is cursing us at the same time. So I think that's interesting that you made that observation. My next question about when you were there, did you try any of the food?
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, okay.
I ate a lot of tilapia.
Oh boy.
And the
Fried.
cassava, the corn, the fish, the meat. I mean, I told Camille, my friend, I said they're going to need a shipping container to get me home. I ate a lot of wonderful food there.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best, I must say. Now, I do want to say, so you also were, you were a screenwriter, but would you say that you started that you love screenwriting more, or do you prefer writing novels and books?
That's a great question. At an earlier time in my career, perhaps 25 years ago, I used to be involved in a youth ministry at a local church. So a lot of my early books were for junior high, high school, college age students. I then progressed on to writing books for parents and married couples. So really, it's been really in the past 15 years that I've segued my writing career to novels and screenplays. If I had to make a choice, I would say I really enjoy screenwriting the most. And we, Ken and I, when we started the story 15 years ago, we spent 2 years researching the story of William Shepard, his missionary partner, who, as a side note, he was partnered with a white guy by the name of Samuel Lapsley. So we researched their story and the whole cast of characters that helped bring down Leopold. We wrote an initial feature film script.
Is that right?
Yeah, it won a number of early screenwriting awards. But then over the past few years, we reversed engineered the project, and I ended up writing the novel for our story Among Kings. And so most people write the novel first,
and then the screenplay.
And then the screenplay. But we did it the other way, because what we found is we had researched so much content about Europe, about America, about Congo. We now had so much material to tell the story in a novel format. So I spent about 3 years writing the novel. And in that time, we've since taken that feature film script and we've now blocked it out into a 10-episode limited series that we're pitching to production companies, because we said from the beginning that this story is so big, it really needs to be like an HBO or Netflix limited series.
Yes, and I do have my book here, the Among Kings novel here, and I've been reading it. I haven't finished it yet, just because I've been working, so I've had limited time, but it's a really good read. I do recommend that people go out and read this book or go out and buy it. You can buy it on like Amazon and all that good stuff, right? And I was really fascinated because being knowing history about Congolese people, I'm having an American missionary go into the Congo is one of the last things on my mind, especially around that time, that they would think to go and travel all across the Atlantic to the center of the continent. And just the exploration and sort of his findings, it was really fascinating. What made you about William Shepard? What was the most fascinating fact that you found out about him during this process?
He's truly a remarkable character. To give him a little bit of his backstory, like as I mentioned, born in 1865, they've estimated or guessed that his father was a former slave. Right. Who fought for the South as a Confederate. They do know that his mom was born a free woman, and he grew up in the town of Waynesboro in Virginia. He went to what was called back then Hampton Technological Institute, which is now Hampton University, right, in Hampton, Virginia. And his art collection that he brought back from a whole kingdom that he discovered in the Congo was called the Kuba Kingdom. That art collection resides in the Hampton Museum in Hampton, Virginia, and it is one of the best African art collections in the entire United States. So what is most fascinating about Shepard is that here in America, he's one of the most either overlooked or forgotten human rights heroes, because it was him standing up to King Leopold, who had enslaved the entire nation for the rubber trade. And by Shepard standing up, Leopold had fought back with a slander lawsuit against him. So Shepard was up for at least 6 years in jail in the Congo, which would have meant certain death at that period of time, and a $50,000 fine, which no one could pay back in those dollars in those days, right? Or on a missionary salary, you could say. So he went up against a king, and he ultimately won the trial. And it was 2 months later, or it was before then, because of his resistance, that the Belgian parliament stripped the Congo away from Leopold after the trial. 2 months later, Leopold died. And so Shepard's work and the other people like Edmund Morel in London, who formed what was called the Congo Reform Association, this cumulative work to stop the atrocities and bring down a king. Most people don't know that story. And Shepard is this absolute hero. And I can go on because he did more. He was really the rock star of missionaries of his day. We could talk more about Shepard, but his work in human rights, along with Edmund Morel in London, that really laid the foundation for what we now know as the modern human rights movement.
Right. And I can imagine, him, once he got there, just seeing the kinds of atrocities that the Leopold regime was doing against, the Congolese people, probably was like more than shocking, was probably mortifying at that time. Yeah, mutilating people if they don't meet the rubber quota and all that stuff. So, and I think around that, it was before the Jewish Holocaust, and it was sort of like a Holocaust before the Holocaust, before another Holocaust, which was, I think, what was happening in Namibia. So it's all these things happening around that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we started researching this 15 years ago, I had never heard of Leopold. I was remotely familiar with the Congo. I'd been to South Africa before, but not to the heart of the continent. And what most people don't know is that Leopold is responsible for the world's 4th largest genocide. They estimate that under his rule and reign for 25 plus years, that 8 to 12 million people died under his reign. And so when we look at what's going on in the as you'd mentioned earlier, the mineral curse, the Congo being blessed with incredible natural resources, it all dates back to Leopold's theft of the Congo, because you can draw and I'm telling you what you already know, but for the sake of the listeners,
yes, of course,
you could draw a direct line to what is going on in the Congo today, and its lack of infrastructure and the state of the politics there. You could draw that line directly back to Leopold and see how much devastation has been caused because of the richness of the mineral resources, but also the lack of stewardship and proper use of them.
Yeah, that is yeah, that's pretty spot on. Um, so I wanted to also talk about your work at the Grove Center in California and in the arts and media department. And because you spoke about, shopping the screenplay of the novel around to have it, some sort of limited series. And how does that, your work at the Grove Center influence potentially getting something done in Hollywood?
Yeah, a great question. The Grove Center for the Arts and Media, it's a nonprofit here in Southern California that I founded about 20 years ago. About a year ago, I resigned from my director as executive director, and now my role is overseeing the board of directors and helping our new executive director facilitate the work. But our whole focus is cultivating the spiritual life, the creative work of artists. So we're really big at helping artists, looking at the whole scope of their lives. Who are they as a person? And starting kind of from the inside out with the dreams and desires that are in their hearts, how can that be played out in their craft? And so we do retreats, we do gatherings, we do conferences where we're helping artists, writers, filmmakers, musicians, visual artists, photographers, really both work on personal issues in their life, but at the same time, their craft to develop the best stories they can possibly in their art. So in terms of how that relates to my work, when I was executive director, I did the Grove part-time for about 10 years so I could focus on my writing and film work. And so I always tell people I'm kind of a player coach. I'm helping other artists as I'm working at my art at the same time.
Yeah, that's so funny because I had another guest earlier a few weeks ago, and she's kind of she's based out of the London in England, but her thing is doing films, and that's more of like her passion is creating content that way. And I forgot to mention to her that something that I also do, I also do music, but I also write. I don't tell people I actually started writing before I started. No, I started singing first, and then I started writing afterwards, like poetry and stuff like that. But it turns
Sure.
into like films, like ideas for like screenplays and stuff like that. So I'm always interested in storytelling in some form of fashion, whether it's through poetry or writing books. But yes, I always wanted to pick people's brains, like when there's like, when you're writing a screenplay or being a screenwriter, do you visualize how you see the end product filmed first and then you write, or do you just write the story first and then after that you can work out the kinks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think in part it does depend on the medium. So if I'm writing for a novel, I'm going to approach how the words lay on the page differently than a screenplay. However, I do think that the main goal is to think visually, because if I hand you something to read and you can visualize in your mind, you can see the scene, you can see the action, you can hear the dialogue. If you can see that and follow the story, then I've done my job. If it's confusing, if the writing's poor or messy, or it's not making sense, there's not a consistency or flow, that's when people kind of put down the book. And so I think there's always a balance of thinking, okay, what is the overall arc of the story? Where do I want to start? What's that middle? What's that end? Kind of thinking in terms of a 3-act play, thinking through those structural points. And then as you get more into specifics and you begin to thin slice, okay, what is each scene? How is that creating conflict, tension, dialogue, propelling the story forward? So I think some people like to structure it all out ahead of time. I think I fall in the middle, that I get an overview of where I want to go, and then I do figure it out along the way.
Okay.
But I think for anyone who has desires to be a writer, I know the past 10 to 15 years, I've really developed a much greater appreciation in the craft of rewriting. because
Mm.
a lot of people get frustrated that the first pass, it's not perfect, it's not what they're looking for. And I think it's rewriting, it's reworking, it's a lot of the creative disciplines. I've got a friend, this painting behind me that my friend painted. He he destroys his paintings again and again and again
Oh, he's
to find his paintings. So he'll paint over. His paintings will be thick with paint because they've gone through so many layers. So I think there's things we can learn from these different creative disciplines that help us. But it's really structure is important, and then the specifics of character, conflict, dialogue, momentum. So we could talk all day about that.
Yeah, I know. And continuity as well.
Yes, continuity, pacing.
Yeah. So I also wanted to go back to your time in Congo a little bit, because I do find that fascinating. So you said that primarily your time was in Goma, and you so in the Northeast. What did you just as far as like topographically speaking, the land and the terrain, what was your impression of that? Because I know Goma is a very, very beautiful place.
Yes, it
aesthetically.
is. Yes. So when you cross the border from Rwanda into Goma, it sits right at water's edge of Lake Kivu, which is a beautiful blue lake, and it's a massive lake. In the distance, you have Mount Nyiragongo, and another volcano behind it. So you've got this beautiful green setting of volcanoes. You've got it's an urban center, over a million people, so it's a busy, active place. We didn't travel. The furthest we went to away from town was a small town called Minova, which was about 2 hours away. And so I didn't travel extensively in the Eastern Congo. There are security concerns depending upon which parts that you head to. My time spent was mainly in Goma, which was along this beautiful lake. So you really can't beat that.
No, you can't. No, you can't. And do you ever want to, you still want to go back to Congo and maybe see other parts of the country?
Absolutely. I'm dying to go to Kinshasa, the capital city. I would love to go to the Kasai region. Kasai region, it's as you know, they've had a lot of difficulties there, but the Kasai is where William and Shepard, they formed their mission. They went from the Atlantic, they went 1,000 miles up the Congo River to the Kasai region. And they formed their mission in the town of Luebo. It's still there. It's in the Kasai where William Shepard discovered the Kuba Kingdom, which no white explorer like Sir Henry Morton Stanley, who was a contemporary of Shepard, no one had discovered that. But this is what's really important because, and I wasn't thinking about talking about this, but the era, for people that aren't familiar with the history, the era is the Great Scramble for Africa, when all the European nations, most of them, divided up the African continent and decided who was owning what. And that came out of the Berlin Conference, where there was 14 European nations and the United States. Not one African person or African nation was invited to the conference. So there was this great scramble for Africa. That's how Leopold nabbed the Congo. But in this period, there's exploration happening all over. But the idea, the notion, and you're familiar with this, the notion in that Victoria era was that Africans were savages. Well, when Shepard discovered the Kuba Kingdom, what he discovered, and this is going back to writing and visualization. This is my hope when people read Among Kings, that people can visualize what he found. He found a highly advanced tribe, the Kuba people, who were highly skilled in architecture, in city design, in metalworking, in soap making, in artistic design, in weaving. There are Cuba fibers and Cuba mats that are in the White House today from William Shepard that he brought back. So when he came back to England on his first furlough, having shared these discoveries, he became the first African-American man inducted into the Royal Geographic Society, and he ended up having tea with Queen Victoria.
Oh, wow.
Well, his discoveries, because he really focused strongly, if you read his memoirs, he was awarded that because his anthropological research was so strong, and he upended the whole notion that Africans were savages. It was highly advanced, and so that's just one of the many contributions that he made. And so, so by all means, I have great desires to go back. My friends are doing great work in Goma, but there's other parts of the country I'd love to see and visit.
Yeah. I've been to Congo, but I've mainly just been in the southeast, Lubumbashi, and another city called Likasi, which is nice. It's a like mid-sized town. It's not too big, it's not too large, but it's very calm. The energy is very calm and quiet. Everybody takes their time. My next question though is, the reading from what I've read so far of the Among Kings novel, it seems that as much as it is a Congolese story, it's also an American story, because this person, William Shepard, I'm still reading, like what made him think to go to Congo and have all these, revelations and discoveries also.
Right.
And I wanted you, to explain that a little bit, because I think it's pretty good.
That's a great question, because my hope is people read the book. Again, this happened well over 100 years ago, but there are certain people in Shepard's life where we will look at race relationships through a completely different lens, because according to the history, and a lot of times people ask me, well, was this real or did you make this up? What part is real of what I'm reading in Among Kings? The history was Waynesboro was founded by Scotch-Irish Presbyterians. It was in Virginia. It was in the South. But because the Scotch-Irish Presbyterians had a high value for human life, they were not fond lovers of slavery. And so Waynesboro was actually kind of a bubble in the South where whites and blacks enjoyed good relations. And the Presbyterian church that William attended was a mixed race church. Whites and blacks went to church together. And it was his Sunday school teacher, a very real lady by the name of Ann Bruce. He had a white Sunday school teacher who said to him at a young age, William, I have prayed that you will someday become a missionary to Africa. So she planted a seed in his heart at a very young age, probably 7, 8, 9 years old. Right. And he pursued that dream over the course of his life as he went to Hampton University. Booker T. Washington was his professor and mentor who encouraged him to pursue that. Then when he was partnered with Samuel Lapsley, they were sent off as co-equals. It was there in some of the research states that some of the Presbyterian wanted Lapsley to be his chaperone in going to the Congo, but when they were both commissioned for service, they went off as equals. They were both given the same sums of money. So over the course of their work together in the Congo, and again, they both got multiple fevers. They endured wild animals, harsh conditions, the heat, fever. They nursed each other to help. Along the way, they developed a deep, cherished friendship. Yeah. Something happens, but I'm not going to give it away. Right. In the story, I won't give it away. But over the course of their friendship, you really see what it looks like for a black man and a white man to become brothers, and it's and that's all true. That's you read Lapsley's memoirs, which you can get online. You get William Shepard's memoirs, which you can get online and read about these. And they speak to one another in such respectful, endearing language. It's a beautiful story.
Right. Yeah, and I did get to that point in there where, you could the relationship between those two, they did establish. And I found that, of course, because of the time, we think, there was such contention between the two races, how could this possibly have happened? But I guess, there were still some people who didn't believe in that concept of oppression and things like that. So I found that element in his story in this book very endearing and surprising as well. I think the readers who decide to get this book are going to find that also pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
Especially in the 1800s. That was tough.
And what's fascinating, what happens here, and I can state this without giving a lot of details away. The story world of Among Kings, we start in America, we go to Europe, we go to Congo, but that when Shepard comes back for his furlough, when he left, Jim Crow in America had not been instituted yet. When he comes back, he's now standing on a train platform that says white and colored. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it begs the question, especially in light of slavery in America, it begs the question, what is the more uncivilized continent? Who is the more savage nation, America or Africa? So again, without stating white or black or race, it's what I believe is it's the human heart, regardless of skin color, has a great capacity for doing tremendous good and tremendous evil.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a theme that really plays out in the story as well.
Yeah. And I think it's a theme that we still are exploring today with what we see socially, in the news, in the media.
Absolutely.
So even though it happened, over 100 years ago, I think the basic thematic elements of the book are definitely very relevant to still today, which I think contributes to why it's such a good read. Yes. So so I want to transition here. Usually on my podcast, we usually play some sort of a game to sort of test our guests. And so yours is going to be a little bit different though. Yours is going to be, so you went to Congo. So we want to test some of your French words on here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have it here, a list of 10 words. Let me get my phone here.
This is really going to be a challenge, but I'll do my best.
Yes. So you have a list of 10 words. Okay. And where's my phone? Oh, here it is. And then I'm going to put a timer on. It is going to be timed.
Okay.
And so I'll give you a minute, 15 seconds. Okay. And then I'm just going to go off a list of 10 words. And you have a minute of however many you can get done in a minute and 15 seconds. That's fine. But once you answer it, I'll just tell you right or wrong, and then we'll move on to the next.
Perfect.
Okay. And we're starting. First word is corps.
Heart.
There you go. Frère.
Brother or boy.
Yes. Brother. We have, let's see. We can give you la feuille.
La feuille. I don't know.
Leaves, or the leaf.
Okay.
You see here, fier.
I don't know.
That one, it means like proud,
Oh,
proud.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. La tête.
Oh, oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one, but I forget. It's,
The head, the head.
yes, yes, let that. Sorry.
Soleil.
Sun.
There you go. And let's see. Paillet. Oh, there you go. Oh, time.
Oh.
Okay. But Paillet was country, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you did pretty good. That's not
I
bad.
did okay.
Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. Yeah. So this was a really good conversation. That's all the time we have for you. Again, just to the listeners, I want everyone to go out and get this book. It really is a good read. It's I think everybody will enjoy it. It takes you for some twists and turns as well. Thank you again, Joy O'Connor, for being on the program. It was really a very inviting and inciting conversation to have with you. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
Absolutely, Mayumba. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, that is all for us. Thank you again. I will see you next time.
Okay, you have a great day. Bye
Thank
now.
you. Bye.